year is 1997. The story of three children finding an Egyptian mummy is released on Disney Channel as an original movie. The year is 2018. We watched the Mummy movie for the first episode of a podcast about Disney Channel original movies. The year is 2021. The story of three children finding an Egyptian mummy is released on Disney Channel as an original movie. The year is 2023. We're still doing this dumb podcast about Disney Channel original movies.
Oof.
And the name of that podcast
is A Whole New Pod.
The podcast all about Harold the Mummy.
And the Hendersons.
And I am Lucas
Mucus.
Bring back old Gilbert Melby.
And I am Jacob. I second that notion, Telejohn.
And this is an episode
shortest.
Of firsts. Yeah, it might be our shortest episode. It's going to be the first Disney Channel original movie remake.
See our very first episode if you want to know like the whole kind of breakdown of this movie.
And you got to pay attention. So this is episode 111, Under Wraps 2021, not episode 1. Oh, how about that? 111.
One. Oh my God.
Number 1? No, this is not number 1. But yes, back in almost 5 years from now, or 5 years before in 2018, we had our first episode 1, Under Wraps, the inaugural Disney Channel original movie. And then,
yes, sir.
Somewhat randomly, 24 years later, they decide to do a remake of that.
Kind of odd.
Well, it's also odd, and I guess it just maybe speaks to the general creative bankruptcy of Disney and Disney Channel at the time, is because I looked, and the last truly like maybe Halloween movie you can look at would have been Invisible Sister, which was I think 2015, and really the most like hardest. That seems weird. The most hardcore Halloween movie before that was Girl vs. Monster in 2012. So this isn't even just like. This is not counting the zombies movies. Those are not spooky movies.
No, they're I mean, at least speaking of myself, I've always enjoyed the Halloween movies or even like the Christmas kind of themed.
Well,
movies.
And we're going to be getting the first Christmas movie in like almost 10 years, I think. For our next episode.
It's just like they're trying to revive or like I don't know, just reanimate the early movies that made Disney Channel original movies a thing.
So our intention going into this episode is that we're not going to do a strict recap of the movie because
we've seen it.
It's a remake. It's a fairly faithful remake.
First episode, you've heard it all.
And if you're a longtime listener of the podcast, you know that we probably went into exhaustive detail. I went into much more exhaustive detail for the recap of that movie.
But if you do want to rewatch the original movie, you can't. It's
at least not on Disney Plus.
It's hidden.
So I tried to do some research. I was like, well, should I rewatch the movie? I'm like, well, no, I don't want to rent it because I can't watch it on Disney Plus. That's weird. And then I, of course, take notes for every movie, and I save those note sheets. But I seem to have all of them except Under Wraps.
Oh, no.
I think the first one I could find was You Lucky Dog, so episode 2. And I knew I used to take more notes. I used to take a lot of notes.
2-3 pages?
Yeah, I regularly had I had 3 pages on like the 13th year. So we've definitely tightened up in certain aspects.
Gotta frame them.
So yeah, if you want a more play-by-play of Under Wraps, go to the first episode.
And like you were saying, like it really is like very true to its, kind of the first movie.
In the updates,
almost step for step.
The updates they bring are kind of the most like boring of like, well, we're in a modern movie now. Let's make a joke about Alexa.
Yeah.
Let's have the mummy do TikTok dances.
Yeah. So it's got some fun stuff to it. It's got some annoying stuff to it. It's got some stuff.
And this is also being paired with that we're trying out our new recording technology, and that this is on
the new computer,
my new laptop, and because we have such a great system, if something gets borked completely, we won't know until after we've recorded the whole thing. But we think I checked it better than I did the one time we recorded on this laptop, so hopefully we got this sorted out, and
fingers crossed
we don't have a scare like I had with the last episode where I thought we lost the whole thing, which would have been a travesty because
it was one of our favorites.
I love Spin so much, but numbers-wise, the world doesn't love Spin so much.
Where'd you end up putting it on your letterbox?
I think it was 6 or 7.
6, 7.
But today we're talking about Under Wraps 2021 in kind of broad strokes, mostly looking at what is the difference between It and the original. And right away, this was like the clear sign of like how truly faithful of a remake was it going to be, because famously, for us and listeners and watchers of Under Wraps 1997, it opens with a fake Halloween movie,
like they do in the movies in the series Scream. Familiar with that?
Or in Under Wraps,
Under Wraps,
and some of it is just like I feel like the original one was a little scarier. But I think some of that was just like I was so thrown because it was the first Disney Channel original movie. We didn't really know what we were getting into.
So we're watching the movie, like you would as like an audience member. So we're maybe under the impression that this is the movie. These are our main characters, kind of whole thing. Oh, here's this warthead.
Well, I had seen the pictures of like the poster, so I knew well enough. I'm like, well, that's not the kid I've seen pictures of. So I'm like, oh, I guess they are doing the warthead. Though they do throw in some like Jason from Friday the 13th
music.
But warthead, more of like a toxic waste, more like a Hills Have Eyes kind of looking creature. I think in the first movie,
very cartoony.
Where this one, he even almost looks like an alien. He's all green and warty.
But it's fun.
I can't remember if they were watching it in. I think they maybe were watching it in the theater.
Oh, in theater.
Because it's all about Gilbert. So the main two boys we have, Marshall and Gilbert, the same names as in the original. Marshall, super into horror movies. That's the same as the original. Gilbert, major scaredy cat. Difference, though, and we only draw the comparison because of Jacob rightly saying he seems a lot like Steve Urkel, is that
his
Gilbert
voice
is black
very
here,
annoying.
And his voice is out of control.
So like I said, like the three main characters in the first movie, they're all white. So now you have maybe a boy that's Hispanic, black, and I don't know if the girl's maybe Hispanic also. But no, all the names are the same. Like I don't even know how to. He's like, I'm Marshall. I don't even know how to do his voice. Like it's just it's goofy. It's really, I don't know.
And it doesn't get any easier to listen to as the movie goes along.
Yeah, it's just kind of annoying, and I found myself commenting on it kind of throughout the movie because it kind of just takes you out of it. It's like, oh, here's like a normal scene, and then it's like, oh, here's this just weird voice, just kind of, I don't know.
And one character difference is that instead of their Halloween shop kind of monster expert adult friend, Bruce in the original movie.
Bruce is cool. I think we both really like Bruce.
He is replaced by a girl named Buzzy.
And she's just kind of like,
not as fun as Bruce.
No, I wasn't digging her vibes.
And I can't remember the introduction of
the some of the stuff in the shop was cool. It had some cool stuff for sale, some cool decorations, but not
generally
not
this movie I think probably even has more of like a Halloween aesthetic than the original, because like all the neighborhoods they're walking through does all have Halloween blow up things everywhere.
Leaves falling digitally and not.
Yeah, they love CGI falling leaves, mostly because they use a leaf blowing into the screen transition at least 3 times.
Several times, yeah.
So I do think maybe some of like the Halloween aesthetics in this one are more amped up than what I remember.
Do you remember when in the original one when Amy comes into the picture?
I don't.
I don't know if she was at the movies with them or not.
I don't think so. She's definitely, they're 6th graders, 12-year-olds, a girl being in the group. That's, whoa, they got cooties.
Ooh.
And I think this director maybe actually directed the Little Rascals movie. I was looking at some of that stuff. He did like Beverly Hills Chihuahua 2, The Tooth Fairy 2.
With The Rock?
He did lots of sequels. I don't know if The Rock was in The Tooth Fairy 2.
Okay. Interesting.
Sequels or remakes of movies. And
we haven't quite been introduced to her yet.
And one aspect of the movie that is very much more stuck in the 90s that they update or change a little bit was the character of Mr. Kubat.
Yes.
Who, in the 90s, there was always subplots with the villains that were extremely unrelatable to kids, where some of it would be like business dealings that were shady or jewel theft. We talk about, sometimes mentioned Dunstan checks in. Yes. Dunstan, that's about an orangutan who is owned by an evil jewel thief. Airbud spikes back. Sure, Airbud plays beach volleyball in that. He also foils a jewel thief plot along with the parrot. So in this, we have Mr. Kubat. Unlike the original, though, Mr. Kubat, famously, at least for us, Mr. Kubat faked his own death in the original movie to avoid paying taxes. Things that
we thought that was
kids
funny.
Love.
Yeah, I remember. I remember that. It was just kind of goofy.
Where the mystique or fear of Mr. Kubat's kind of weird because it's like, oh, we're going to play Ding Dong Ditch at Mr. Kubat's house.
People know that he is an antique dealer, though. The kids are aware that he deals in antiquities.
But then his house is just like, it looks like it's foreclosed. It looks like what you would expect a dead man's house to be, but they know he lives there. He lives across the street from Marshall and Gilbert, who live right next to each other, because they go in Ding Dong Ditch's house or whatever.
For
Mr.
whatever
Kubat,
reason.
he looks like he could just be going out hunting on the weekend in Minnesota. He's got a Carhartt jacket, flannel shirt, whereas the original Mr. Kubat's a very sinister looking businessman.
This guy's just kind of grumpy looking. He's just kind of like,
but still is a known antique shop owner and importer, as we see that night, of Egyptian goods.
Yeah,
which is still accurate to the original, but it just something about his updated character. It's just weird.
I agree.
What's not weird or different from the original movie is that Marshall's mom's boyfriend, Ted, which I think is even the name of the character in the original, who classic DCOM formula starting out was that.
Doesn't accept him. Maybe doesn't hate. Hate's a strong word.
Maybe we were just hating him on behalf of him. But it's not a dead dad situation. It's a divorced dad, which I think is still the same as in the original
same
movie.
difference.
But he hates Ted.
No, he doesn't give him the time of day. He ignores him. And Ted just, he's a nice guy. He just, likes Marshall's mom, and they tickle each other in the bedroom. But he's not having any of that tickling. He just, he just ignores him.
The museum is a setting that's important both in this and the original, though I feel like the museum in the original was much more classic looking.
This one kind of sucked.
It just looks like a science museum that happens to have mummies there.
It had a T-Rex, kind of skeleton in it.
They got a whole lot going on.
It was about cool. What I didn't like and what kind of ticked me off is their mummy exhibit. Everything was like exposed, like all of their, like you wouldn't, like they have like a female mummy. But just exposed. It was not in a glass case. We feel like
in the original there was at least maybe like a rope, velvet rope around her.
I think that I even think that in the original, like the sarcophagus was fully on her. Like she wasn't exposed until like Harold opened her up. I don't think she was exposed like that, but I could be wrong.
I think you're right.
But yeah, I mean, like these people are literally going right up to you. Like you could have ripped the amulet off of her, and people were like standing inside the coffins and stuff.
Well, those were
or they were
reproductions for photos.
Yeah.
And this is where we get the introduction of Amy. Maybe it's the same in the original movie. I don't know. What is different, though, is that Amy has two dads. And it might even be implied that it's not
Step Dave.
I think it's like her dad's. So, yeah, she has a step Dave. So it's not like.
Her dads have step dads.
Yeah, so she originally had two
dads.
They were married. They divorced. So now she potentially, could have four dads. And we were reading the description of Under Wraps 2, which talks about her dad marrying Carl.
But
they're talking about Step Dave, so I don't know.
Step Dave. So
maybe that's the other dad. It's obviously we have nothing against same-sex marriages, but in the sense of this movie and the sequel, it's maybe confusing when she just calls everybody dad all the time. And she is quite larger than Elise Marshall. She's kind of
taller.
Big girlfriend type for the boys.
So in the first one, there was more of kind of a cue, I don't know, like kind of a romance between the two. Like towards the end, maybe they're dating or whatever, but like that's never really like a thing in this movie. They're not ever romantically. I don't know.
No, she's more of like, I'm gonna be a journalist.
Yeah,
and
independent gal.
No, they're just having fun together.
Yep.
She makes a joke to a bully that's being mean to Marshall about like he's gonna poop a lot. So that was definitely different from the original.
Give him his candy back. Because this bully that Marshall pushed into a cake in third grade hates him, so he steals his candy all the time.
And they're led to Kubat because they hear that the museum had in its shipment the other mummy stolen.
And
what was that Kubat had?
Gilbert is the one that actually radios. Or walkie-talkies, Marshall.
Marshall, he's got these long things that look like boxes that could be holding dead people, Marshall.
And he's like, it's probably just a alien thing. I don't know.
So they bring Amy along and they sneak into...
They break into...
Sure.
His basement. Because that looks like it would be the spookiest, I think they say. Well,
I think this is roughly the same as the original. They find the sarcophagus. They remove it. Oh, there's a mummy in there. It's spooky. Let's go away. And then, moonlight shining down through the window to his amulet on the mummy and
reanimates.
Hello, Marshall.
Here's Harold.
And I think, I don't think it's controversial to say the makeup seems better in this, and at least also at this moment, the presentation of the mummy is a little spooky,
creepier,
especially for kids.
It's, I believe, who finds him? Oh,
Gilbert
kind of gets chased by him.
We're not doing a recap here.
No, but like the chase is fun. Harold runs up the steps. They're trying to hide. They're turning off their flashlight, and Harold just busts through like the wall,
Kool-Aid Man style.
Yeah, some classic kind of spooky stuff.
But then he's like, "Oh, you dropped." Well, he's obviously not talking, but he hands them a flashlight that they drop. Yeah, he's friendly. All right, let's. Oh, he's following us out of the house. Uh-oh, Mr. Kubat's back. What are we going to do? Oh, he should stay with you, Marshall. And okay, so he's with Marshall in his bedroom.
Yeah, and Marshall's got a cool bedroom, kind of like the first one. Maybe not as cool, but he's got, all the horror posters and the masks and stuff like that.
Got his own wart head mask.
Yeah, and that one looks better than the movies.
So in the first movie, Harold, you could read into it, he's kind of filling a paternal void that
father figure.
That's what paternal means.
Yes.
For Marshall, because his dad is no longer in the picture because he's divorced. And then he says that the mummy reminds him of his uncle, who I believe is still supposed to be alive.
Although, So in this, they have a picture of Grandpa, and it's like an old photo because Marshall looks like he's about 5 in the photo.
So he reminds him of his dead grandpa, and that's where Harold comes from. So it's like, oh, is he sad that he doesn't have a dad, or is he sad that he doesn't have a grandpa? Because Disney Channel, you can't do both. It's only one. We can't have this multifaceted of characters with deep, sad emotions about all of their paternal figures.
Absolutely not.
They have, similar to the original movie, some mummy shenanigans, like in the house. Some of it involves not Alexa and Harold somehow.
Terry. So what's the whole sequence of this? So Harold goes downstairs. He finds the honey. He gets sticky honey, and he ends up picking up like a controller. The controller gets stuck to his hand, which turns on the TV. It's a news report. The news report is just Terry, which is the name of the Alexa kind of thing. So the Terry thing starts talking, and Harold's mumbling and freaking out this whole time. The Terry thing thinks that Harold says something about ordering 14 bags of birdseed, which comes into play later on at the very end of the movie. Funny joke.
It doesn't. It's just
funny joke wraps up.
They finish the joke. It's not like they beat Kubat with the bird seed.
So Harold throws the controller up into the ceiling with the honey on it, so it sticks to the ceiling, and then he accidentally steps onto like a Roomba, which chases him around the house and eventually chases him out the door.
All right. This is the exact kind of thing I didn't want to happen in this episode. And then stuff happens. He sees a mummy sign on the bus and about like the museum exhibit, and then he gets attached to the bus
because he recognizes the female.
I guess zombies. I don't think it actually looks that similar. But
yeah, I don't know.
This I think was I didn't really like the stuff in the house because that was very much like the most like, it's 2021, we gotta have Alexa and TikTok dances and everything. Whereas the original movie has the great bit where I think he gets found by somebody, or he gets hit by he ends up at the hospital somehow where they assume he is dead because he doesn't have a pulse. So then they end up defibrillating him and he catches on fire.
That's fun.
And then he runs out of the hospital. Not recreated in this, nor is him going to a drive-through and yelling into the speaker or whatever. That doesn't happen. Instead, this is kind of the two stuff we got. We got the shenanigans at home, and then he winds up at the museum, and the kids, fortunately, find him basically as soon as he gets there, because they go home, see all this stuff's messed up, realize he's not in the house, find him at the museum.
He's holding the hand of his lover.
And the security guard's like, hey,
stop touching them.
Hey, I don't think you should do that. Hey, could you stop? We don't got the best security, and we only got me, so I'm just gonna say please don't.
And then they had to explain to him that Harold was simply just cosplaying because he loves.
Yeah, so benefiting this movie with all of its extra Halloweenness is that Harold's days before Halloween able to walk around town, and people just think he's in costume. They're a little weirded out, but they're mostly okay with it. They go to Buzzy for their monster knowledge. She does translation of the hieroglyphic.
Takes a picture of it. Harold freaks out. But Harold also, while at Buzzy's place here, learns to dance.
Yeah, there's an old-timey TV that has very much like the kind of crap that I assume 2-year-old watched on YouTube all day of just
Weird, goofy
dancy
skeletons.
Yeah. They don't... I thought he was going to floss.
It's not the spooky, scary skeletons.
No, this is the lame CG skeleton.
Yeah, not as fun.
And then they learn through the translation that, oh, he's only got 3 days since the moonlight activated him before he turns to dust. So that's roughly the same as the original. Also lines up, I think, essentially with Halloween at midnight, though that's not super spelled out. It's kind of just like, oh, Halloween's happening, and now we're saying, oh, there's 3 hours left or whatever.
Yeah.
Kubat goes and meets a new character for this movie, which is the person who he's going to be selling the stuff
Ravenclaw or something?
Ravensworth, I believe. And I just looked at her Wikipedia. She has been in some stuff very interestingly. She apparently would have been, I guess, the motion capture and actor for the orangutan in the 3 newest Planet Ape movies.
What?
She's that orangutan.
That's interesting.
As well as, some normal live action roles. But I'm like, okay, well, I wonder what she's going to get up to in this. And mostly she's kind of just a rich lady.
The old lady was the orangutans?
She eats an octopus and really gets into chewing on its tentacle that she cuts off.
Yeah, it looks kind of really hokey, but yeah, she's really enjoying this octopus. She's got some cool things like a small Tyrannosaurus Rex head, a
samurai armor.
Yeah.
So she's a collector.
She's a collector, yes.
Another fun little new thing is that they went to the museum partially, I guess, for their ancient Egypt unit in school. So that then they're making a movie for a school project where they're able to use Harold as a mummy prop, essentially. And
it's a fun movie making experience, I would say.
But what's not fun is Ted, where Ted shows up and he's like, "Oh, I heard you were making a mummy movie." So I had
all these props from my studio or whatever.
Whatever his job is, apparently he has perfect safari caps and stuff for them to wear as explorers. And he walks away afterwards, and Marshall's like,
"He's so annoying." And then,
you believe this piece of shit? And Amy's like, he seems really nice.
Amy's like being sarcastic. He's like, yeah, he's just so annoying. He brought all this stuff to help us out.
And me and Jacob watching them, we're just like, fuck you, Ted. Fuck you.
Ted is a good guy. Marshall should be lucky that her mom has found a good man.
And then the kids, they're keeping an eye on Kubat because they're worried that he knows that his mummy is missing. And they hear that his henchmen are taking the sarcophagus to the plant, and they need to get
the ice cream plant.
They need to get Harold back into his sarcophagus, otherwise he'll turn to dust. That's what those 3 days are about. And there's a weird thing where, like, do children in 2021 not know what that factories can be called plants? Because there's a part where it's almost like Amy's looking it up on the computer, where she's like, plants can sometimes be referring to factories or warehouses.
That was weird. What was the purpose of that?
Are we should I be even more concerned about the future of our children?
I didn't understand that. I don't know if it was trying to be funny. I don't think so. I don't know.
And then Kubat's henchmen confront them in Gilbert's shed. That's his clubhouse. I can't remember if this is exactly in the movie or not, but they give them the slip. They're running around town. They see the mummy's reals. I think that does happen in the original because they know that
Harold
the
has
real.
Super strength. When they escape the little clubhouse here, he throws Kubat's 2 kind of henchmen, or I don't know, he just picks them up and just kind of chucks them down, and he's very strong. And we will see that towards the end of the movie where he's very strong.
Yeah, I think that's kind of a classic zombie idea, is that
super strength.
You're not worried about hurting your body, so then you can use your ultimate strength because you're using your rotted muscles at full power.
Oh my.
So in the original movie, there's kind of like a community-centered Halloween dance, where there's a Halloween carnival at the school, but also there seems to be still some adults there.
Yeah,
like Buzzy is involved in the haunted house.
Which is what Bruce did in the first one, was in charge of the haunted house.
Oh, he was?
Yeah, he was the one that set it all up.
See, this was a time where, since this was the first one we did, that maybe is seated in Jacob's memory a little bit more, or the other ones.
I mean, I can picture him. He's a big dude with glasses.
I don't know if I have your notes. I mean, I have some of your notes. Maybe some of them are for under wraps. I can't read his handwriting. So
Oh.
But yeah, Jacob used to take notes. I think I have a sheet that was maybe even Sam or Dustin's notes for a movie.
That's like iconic stuff right there.
So there's some relatively fun. This is where Harold. So the guy who plays Harold is an actual dancer. So he does lots of dancing and kind of contortion work here.
It's to show off his moves.
Getting it on dance wise with the teacher.
I would say at this, and she's dressed like an Egyptian queen, like Cleopatra.
Yeah.
This is where we also see several couples in the zombies outfits.
Is it several and not just one that they show a bunch of times?
Maybe it is the same couple. But yeah, so you have the green hair and the cheerleader girl. Throughout the movie, too, they've been hinted at that Gilbert wants to win this weird purple panda.
Yeah.
And this is it.
Not a good addition.
He tries to win it. It's throwing, rings on bottles. He doesn't do it. Harold gets 3, and he just breaks every bottle by throwing it with his super strength. So again, they're showing you he's very strong. He can break bottles with plastic.
Yeah, he defies physics, basically. They run through the haunted house. It's fun.
Yeah, there's a Dracula in the haunted house who, I think he has a good, he kind of pops out of his coffin and says something, kind of fun to everybody going by him. And everybody's just,
everybody no-sells him.
They're not enjoying they're not going through the haunted house to enjoy it.
Marshall and Amy are like, where's Buzzy?
Yes.
And then
he's like, oh, fuck.
Kubat's henchmen eventually go through and they're like, where's the mummy? Or no, Gilbert and him.
Where's everybody's Halloween spirit?
It was a fun bit.
Yeah.
Kubat's henchmen and Kubat, they get
distract the mummy.
Harold, they take off his amulet.
He dies.
The coffin stops.
Collapses.
And they load him up onto their truck, which has an ice... They somehow
ice cream truck,
and I think this is probably from the original too. They associate the truck with the ice cream factory, and it's like this old ice cream factory shut down. Why wouldn't they just use any other truck?
Oh, this is where they ask Ted, "Oh, would you know the truck that has this penguin on it, right, or something like that?"
Yeah, that's for Aaron's ice cream.
Like, we used to go out there a lot when I was a kid, ride the bus out there, but now it's shut down.
Make it sound like we went down there, smoke weed, and eat ice cream.
When the fuck did we get ice cream?
So they gather up with Buzzy a bunch of Halloween decorations and shit that they use to set up traps. It
was just cool. They got a giant web kind of thing with a skeleton. They got a spider on wheels, I guess.
So they're going into the factory and just, I'm guessing
Booby
similar
trapping
to the original, is that Gilbert's too afraid to go in.
Yeah.
Eventually he comes to the rescue, but unlike in the original, he does not drive a car through a wall.
No, should have did that.
Which I'd love to rewatch that movie just to see that part.
That's fun movie.
Fast forward, Harold's chained up. The Ravensworth buyer's there. Gilbert coming to the rescue gets the amulet, ring tosses it onto Harold's neck,
who starts hitting everyone.
He kills 3 people.
He when he hits them, I think they break through iron poles or
cinder blocks, poles.
Yeah. He hits them so hard they go flying 50 feet. Everybody. And then
there's some bad mummy jokes.
Kubat and the Ravensworth get hit by large heavy objects and they just get flying.
Yeah, they somehow have set up a giant skull wrecking ball prop.
They get wrecked. And then they all get tied up, of course, to the giant penguin statue, and the cops arrest them, and
presumably they just leave him chained up.
We see him on TV.
Oh, that's right.
Yes, we see him on TV.
It's a perfect movie.
They were arrested.
But the sarcophagus of Harold's was there and it was broken.
Yeah, I don't remember how it broke. Probably Harold.
I think it was, Harold or the wrecking ball.
Yeah.
So just like in the original movie, they have to break in to the museum, which Harold just rips off the door handles or whatever. But an alarm's going off. And they find his lady,
and
mummy.
She's awake, or they wake her up somehow.
Well, it's because the moonlight shines on her
amulet. Yeah.
But they're like, don't get out of there.
We want to chase you for 3 days.
And they're able to use the replication sarcophagus used for photos, and that's still considered
works.
Gucci.
Yeah,
and
it's fine.
Then they have an emotional goodbye between the kids, and Harold. Marshall hugs him at the end. Harold touches Amy's hand a few times.
Because they did that, when they first met.
Oh, okay.
To say,
so it wasn't creepy.
No. When they were in the house, when he first kind of meets the kids, they were doing the hand touch thing. Just it's safe. It's okay. So that was his way of saying goodbye to her. And then Marshall and the Harold Hug. I didn't really think the connection between Harold and Marshall was as special as it was in the first movie. They didn't feel like best friends, you know.
It did feel like, in my memory, they at least had one more scene where it's just like the two of them. Where in this, it's mostly when
all three
he's
of
with
them.
Harold, it's all the kids together.
Yeah.
And then sarcophagi
Magically, like, put the lids on themselves.
It all closes up, and then
Sparkles, you know.
they get out of the museum. And unlike in the first one, where cops come into the museum with guns drawn, they get out of the place and
they pull away, and the cops are pulling up. So they would have seen him, you know, driving away. But
classic, not even, I'd say general movie fashion, but definitely like DCOM. I feel like there's some other DCOMs where it's like, you could have just seen them. Like, they're just off frame right now. Most importantly, though, we're going to end the movie without, you know, Harold with his interaction. Or
Donuts, Ted.
Yeah. Marshall with his interactions with the mummy is okay with Ted now.
Yes.
And you know what? Okay.
Ted's got donuts.
Begrudgingly, I'll be okay with Ted. Because he did bring like 36 donuts.
Yeah, like 3 boxes.
Reason.
Yeah, 3 boxes.
Day after Halloween.
I think this is something, I don't know which ones you guys like, so I just got 2 of each.
He's trying so hard.
The sticky honey controller falls down on Mom.
Yeah, we can put a bow on that one.
There's a couple other things that happen.
And then, kind of surprisingly, since they made a sequel, there's not really a sequel tease because we cut back to the museum and we see the sarcophagus opening up.
Say the end.
But Harold's just hanging out a sign that says the end. And it's not even the end question mark. It's just the end.
And there was a little scene, too, where we see all the kids back at school and Amy has gotten her position as the
lead, we don't care.
As the lead reporter. Yeah.
So
the rear end.
Our quickest semi-recap ever. I can't remember because we did the big rundown of all of the movies we never did for... Well, I'm even skipping past Final Judgments. This movie doesn't need to exist. I think I've made my feelings felt about a lot of Disney remakes generally applying to like the cartoons.
I don't know why they chose this one. I think like Smart House would have been fun to do now in modern, you know, kind of times, but Smarter House, I don't know what I guess you would all do with it.
Yeah, in some ways it's impressive that especially lately Disney's had a lot of restraint because, I mean, honestly, I wouldn't be surprised if Disney Channel original movies just stop
making
being a thing soon.
Yeah,
because I think even this one was another that like it was on Disney Plus before it was on Disney Channel. So yeah, this movie doesn't need to exist. It's not as good as the original. Is it the worst thing ever? No. Is some of that just like I like seeing Halloween stuff in movies?
I've always liked Disney Channel's Halloween theme movies. I mean, I know Lucas isn't the biggest fan of the Halloween Town movies, but I always enjoyed those. And obviously, Don't Look Under the Bed is one of our favorite movies, you know.
But that one I don't think is around Halloween, is it?
But I mean,
that's one I need to rewatch.
Spooky movie.
Planning to rewatch that one as we get closer to Halloween.
And you're gonna like ruin your love for it.
Maybe.
Yeah. Oh no.
I'll be like, Boogie Goo sucks ass.
That's awful.
All of that was horrible.
You can't ruin that.
Well, I can't say it's the best DCOM and not have. I've rewatched Can of Worms. Maybe that one was maybe a little overrated.
That was just a weird
still
one.
Holds up.
Wild one.
But what I was getting at a little bit ago is never remember. I can't remember because we did like the super run through on our 100th episode.
Harold has superhuman strength. He could wrap him up in his.
Yeah, I guess in this one, maybe he punches somebody through the airplane.
But then they all get sucked out the hole.
And then he goes, did I do that? He says his first words.
Gilbert says that.
He says his first words.
Did I do that?
And yeah, they just happen to be, got any cheese?
Oh, no.
Apparently that was another Steve Urkel thing.
He stops at the towers from being knocked over, but the passengers are still killed as they get sucked out one by one out of the planes.
Since I'm already just salivating over how short this episode will be, I won't plug the email account. And let's get right into, we'll make up for having half a movie review with having two whole new pops. Probably like 3 months ago, I had said, well, we'll save these 2 sour warhead sodas for a little later.
If they're really sour, I'm going to be a little...
We're finally getting to them.
I might pucker up here.
And I actually recently had Ghost Energy Sour Warhead Watermelon energy drink.
Ghost Energy.
And Ghost Energy, I've had 2 because they had a blue Sour Patch Kids one. they got tons of caffeine, but they don't seem to be energy drinks that make me feel sick, as some do. So I can give an endorsement there. Wasn't a huge fan of the Sour Warhead one. And it actually has a lot of the same flavor profile as I remember these sodas having, just like a very like tart, like almost like cranberry juice quality to them. So they must have a similar formula, or like, hey, I haven't had, despite Jacob buying some Sour Warheads a while ago that we never actually tried amongst us. I don't remember exactly what Sour Warheads taste like.
Yeah.
So we're going to
we'll try open the lemon one.
All right.
First, then I got some water to cleanse the palate.
Love the can cracking open. It's much more fun than the bottle.
Yes. I'll get a little slurp here, a little suck.
Say it one more time, Jacob.
A little slurp, a little suck.
Yeah, that's definitely
yellow. It's definitely got some color to it.
Smells like alcohol.
Oh, it does kind of stink.
Yeah, it's pretty tart. I mean, lemon.
I don't even taste really lemon, do you? Well, maybe.
Well, that was kind of the thing we had with the other ones. Is this like the tartness
aftertaste
is so overpowering? Because we had like a green apple one before, and it's like, well, they're all kind of naturally sour in some ways, but like lemon, it's like, well, yeah, lemon's gonna be sour if you're being truthful about it. Jacob's reaction reminds me of apparently a story of a friend of ours, Sean Flemons, who we've referenced here before, long since has not been listening to this podcast, I'm sure. But the first time he ever had ginger beer, which ginger beer is very distinct from ginger ale in that it's very strong. Apparently, the first time he had ginger beer, he like went, is this whiskey? So that was what I was feeling like. Jacob's was like, oh my God, got some spice on this lemon.
I don't know if I'm a big fan of that one. I don't know. It's a little bit sour.
All right, so cracking open. Water? I think I'm okay. I mean, I have my own water. You don't need to give it to me like a baby bird or whatever. You don't want to. Sure, you can pour some in there. We're going wild on this episode. And you can. Where's your glass? Oh, between his legs.
Oh yeah. Give me that red. Give me that red stuff. It's like cough syrup. Does it smell better?
No, it does smell like cough syrup. I'm not the biggest cherry fan
guy.
Generally. So.
And black cherry.
Black cherry can sometimes be better.
Excuse me. This is what happens.
This is the worst episode.
We're doing this.
Yeah, the cherry's definitely more present and still very tart.
Very tart. I don't mind that one as much as the other one.
Wow.
It's got like a cough syrup kind of taste to it.
Well, that's just because cough syrup is cherry flavored.
Cherry.
You know, I'm like eating my Pop-Tarts. I'm like, it tastes like cough syrup. Fuck you, Ted. Yeah, that make Jacob not spit take.
Oh man,
we're not at risk of spit takes too often. So fun sodas.
I don't mind that one.
We closed the book on that. Jacob was talking earlier that maybe on the horizon, the new very exciting time of Mountain Dew Voodoo. What's it gonna taste like this year?
Voodoo.
It's gonna taste like black cherry.
What was it? Do you remember? Was it like candy corn or something? Or remember what it was last year?
I think it was like Skittles.
Skittles.
Or Fruity Pebbles. Or I don't know.
Skittles sounds familiar. At least one of the years. I think we maybe done it once or twice.
Yeah.
That's always a fun one though.
So you can anticipate that by reviewing us on iTunes, find us on Apple Podcasts,
Twitter,
Google, Spotify,
X.
Follow us on Twitter, AWN Pod, run by Dustin. Thank you, Dustin. YouTube.com/a-whole-new-pod, where you'll not be mistaking this movie for the actual movie, because unless we say part 1.
Oh, true.
Ooh, part 1.
What does that do to SEO?
I mean, let's be real. Nobody's looking for
You'll just have to put parentheses 2021.
I do that for all the movies.
Well, there you go. Put the years. Then that's all we need.
Nobody's looking to watch this version of Under Wraps.
No.
They're looking to watch the original because they're like, oh, they've remade this. This is the first DCOM. But this, zero interest. This movie doesn't even exist.
That's pretty accurate.
But we exist. We exist. A whole new pod. And further proof that maybe these movies don't exist is that the sequel to this that we're going to get, Under Wraps 2, doesn't even have a Wikipedia page of its own. And I always link
That's
to
wild.
Wikipedia pages of these movies. And I'm trying to remember. I think there's maybe one other movie that didn't have a Wikipedia page. But I don't even know if that's true. I think even like Ready to Run had a Wikipedia
There's got to be
page.
some kind of article out there on it.
There's like fan wikis, but
Oh, okay.
we don't count those.
Fair enough. Touche.
Any final thoughts from you, Jacob?
Yeah, like I said, I always love a good Halloween movie. Looking forward to the Christmas one, but yeah, sorry, Gilbert. Yeah, you kind of ruined this one for me.
Well, I'll leave us talking of the sequel.
Ooh.
Very
Halloween wedding.
famous Hollywood anecdote of when James Cameron was pitching to make a sequel to the original Alien. Apparently, his famous pitch to the studio, he wrote Alien up on a whiteboard, and then he wrote an S at the end, and he made it a $. So
Oh
it
my
was
God.
Alien $. So I can only assume they broke grammar rules. They wrote mummy, and then they wrote S. Mummies. Under Wraps 2, that's where the money's at.
That's where the money's at.
And that's where I will die. What?
Replenish. You're supposed to take the warm ones and fill it up after you
You
finish.
didn't have one today.
When did I finish? Oh, I saw you have a soda pop today.
I had one yesterday.
What?
I had a million yesterday.
You had a million.
But I definitely might.
You're supposed to
Was it-
replenish. You take the
Oh,
and refill
you didn't
the
replenish,
refrigerator.
goddammit.
I can't believe it. I never had anything after you've been here.
Oh, fuck! If I touch anything, I touch you to replenish!
Seriously, look. Refrigerator, everything.
Right in the basement. And if you went downstairs in the basement and got a soda, what was the fucking rule?
You'd replenish.
Okay, but what the fuck? Danny doesn't fucking replenish.
You know what? I'm fucking done.